Back here in Louisville at the AVCA Convention here following just an unbelievable national semifinal last night. We are D1 Ticker powered by Coaches.wire. I'm Daniel Gillman alongside the Arizona head coach, newly crowned NIVC champion in Charita Stubbs. So happy to be with you, and obviously it's been a whirlwind of a week for you.
Yes.
We're going to see some history here this weekend as well, as the first female head coach champion will be crowned regardless of who wins. So whenever people are watching this, we know that this is a milestone weekend. And so for someone that has been in this sport for as long as you have, what does it mean for not just the coaches around, but just the entire movement of college volleyball to see the growth and now finally, whether it be Katie or whether it be Danny, get crowned?
I think it's really exciting, mainly because for so long we've been wanting it to happen. It was Mary Wise for the longest, getting really close, not able to finish it, unfortunately. And to see how our sport has taken off and everyone's excited about it, it's nice to see a woman actually about to be crowned, because now it seems like it's attainable. For the longest, it was like, is it possible? Is it possible? But now it's attainable because it's going to happen on Sunday.
It's unbelievable. Reverse sweep from Penn State as well, and the adversity and battling cancer and everything. But from a perspective of a coach, when you watch a match like a semifinal, a national semifinal, what are you looking at? Are you watching specifics on the court, or are you kind of relaxed? I get to be a fan watching from home.
Never ever can I sit and just relax and watch it as a fan. I wish I could. I can't even watch any sport that way. I want to know the ins and outs of it. But for me, it was really important to see the amount of fight that took place, that no one gave up. When a reverse sweep happens, you know that there are some pretty motivating factors behind it, and just the tenacity that's necessary. And with, Katie's story is just one of those things that, it pulls at your heart plug a little bit. Not that you don't want the other team to win, but, you want those success stories to take place and to have great things happen as a result of it.
I thought it was really fitting, too, because it's the same day that I think a lot of people wanted her to win the Coach of the Year. And yes. Dan Fisher was extremely deserving and an unbelievable season for Pitt, but then you see Bus Boom Kelly upset him, and then Katie gets the ultimate prize, which is the chance to play for the championship. And coming off of an NIVC championship, it must be a unique feeling, because you won your last game that you played this season.
Yes.
That's got to be something that you can take and move forward. What is the message to the players, I guess, before the NIVC and now after moving into the offseason?
Well, that Sunday was pretty heart-wrenching, to stand there and wait the entire time not to hear your name called. But in retrospect, I sit back and I go, there was a blessing to it. Now, my goal is always to get to the NCAA tournament, and we're going to push and fight for that. But if there was another option, I'm glad that we were able to take that option. My athletic director was 100% behind it. And so I went and told the team, let's be the 65th best team, and let's use this as motivation to work hard and to put ourselves in the right position and compete, which was really nice. And so what we said the day before the final match was that we're one of the last 6 teams able to practice right now that's practicing. So we worked this hard. Let's go for the whole thing.
Was there a conversation, and we'll kind of get into athletic departments and all of that, but to get the right to host, and to not just have that right, but I think you probably have to fight a little bit for it to get the McHale Center as that spot, and then you're hosting another 2 teams in the Fab Four as well. What was the conversation like with the athletic department to try to get that?
Well, my director of operations was the brain behind all of that, and putting in bids, and you got to have the right numbers and be able to get the right crowd in. You have to make sure the facility is available. Gymnastics was doing some things, and we were able to finagle a little bit there. Men's basketball had games, women's basketball had games, which means then it takes a toll on your fans, because you want them to come out for all the various events. And Tucson showed up, so I was excited.
So now moving forward, and as we talk about the growth of the sport, seeing all these attendance records broken, did you see a change from your first season into your second season with the attendance, and maybe a few things that you did as a coach to try to raise it up?
Well, I went out and started, so we've always had chalk talks. That's something that Dave had started, and that was before a few matches. And a couple of the season ticket holders said, hey, Rita, we want more. We want to be able to talk to the players. We want to be able to meet your assistant coaches. So can you do something else? So once a month, I held what was called Bump Set Spike with Charita Stubbs. I brought in 4 of my players and 1 of my coaches and director of operations. And we sat down on a Tuesday night and we just kind of talked volleyball, took them through what was taking place prior to that, what was needed, gave them an opportunity to talk to the athletes, and it was a hit. And so I was excited about that, and that, I think that helped increase our attendance, and it helped the fans understand who we are, because everyone wants to hear why we should be backing you versus just back me.
And I do think, in covering the sport as a broadcaster, talking to fans like they are knowledgeable volleyball fans is always something they appreciate as well. Do you find there is a fine line to walk that has, let's bring in new fans, but let's also talk to those higher IQ volleyball fans?
No, I'm an open book. I'm about as transparent as they come, probably a little too open sometimes. And so I just share the information with whomever's sitting there, and then those who want to know more or those who know more will definitely chime in. So I have a few of those season ticket holders that will come at me, hey Rita, what's up with the serving? The serving just needs to get better. Thank you very much. Of course I tell them to miss their serve. No one says that. But just trying to explain to them the dynamics behind it. And so my solution to that for them is we're now going to hold a little clinic with our season ticket holders. So we're going to take them through it, and we're going to put them under the wire and under the gun and say, hey, how do you respond to this? And then they'll understand that pressure a little more.
I love that. So, open book, let's get into a little bit more of the gritty stuff, because one of our major focal points in this talk is to dive into the house settlement and the revenue sharing to treat these student athletes a little bit like employees with this pay to play format. But with it comes the change in the roster size.
Correct.
With it comes saying goodbye to some of these walk-ons. So when did you find out about it, and how have you adjusted as a head coach to try to filter it through your team?
It was a lot of talk about it last year, and so we had a roster last year. We could have had as many as 22 student athletes, and I think that is a large number. For me personally, it's hard to keep 22 people happy, because you always want everyone to feel like they're part of the program. If I recruit you to be here, you belong here, and I want you to be able to travel. I want you to have your own locker. And so sometimes facilities or budgets don't allow that. And so I started trying to get ourselves in a position to tackle this ahead of time. And so we had a roster of 16 this year, which was a doable number. We were able to divide the players up amongst the staff. Everything about that part worked well in my mind. But we have the ability to have 18. The Big 12 allows us to travel 18. So that was always a number that was in my mind for that. I'm very sad that you don't get to keep as many players in terms of the walk-on position, because there's a lot of great athletes. And how do you say, I'm sorry, but there's no place for you? I think that's why the portal is as full as it is now. Some programs are clearing space in hopes of getting someone else on their roster beyond the walk-ons. And, so it makes me sad, because you want the sport to grow. You want as many people to participate in it as possible, but with the house settlement, it's just not possible.
So do you see a change in the way that you and other head coaches maybe have to treat some of the student athletes and converse with them now that it is a little bit more about the money when it comes down to it?
Well, you kind of get to say some of the stuff you wanted to say all along. That, now if you want it to be a business, let's treat it truly like a business. And I had a conversation with a few of my athletes and said, I know you want A, B, or C, and I want to be able to give you A, B, and C, but do you want what really comes with that expectation? And I said, here's an example of what it would look like. You got to produce this number of kills and this number of blocks and digs, and if you can't participate, how would you like that pressure? Oh, whoa. I don't necessarily want all of that pressure all the time. And I said, I understand it. Now, in the same breath, I do believe that the athlete should receive some different things, be able to monetize their face and, go out there and work and do all of those different things. But I've just always been of the mindset that put it in an account for them, and when they leave, a letter accrue interest and whatnot, and when you leave, you can have it. That's perfectly fine. But I just don't know that it's the wisest thing ever to put all this money in a young person's hands at a young age. I don't know. I wasn't smart enough to be able to deal with that kind of money. I don't even make half of the money they make, some of these athletes. And how do you handle that?
And you see it at every level, from professional football, and they had a good 30 for 30 ESPN documentary about going broke and how easy it is to fall into some of these traps. Have you had conversations about maybe getting a team financial advisor or an agent or something to try to collectively organize the NIL? Is that a future?
Well, definitely. Within our athletic department, as part of it, we've had financial seminars, and but they don't know it's real until it's actually happening to them. Kind of like winning the NIVC. We had no idea what it was like to play this late in the month of December until you actually do it. And so you have to constantly put them in a position so that they understand, and you have to make them do it in some cases.
And so with that championship win now, what do you think the biggest experience gained it is for the returners on your team. Is it, all right, now you've played in late December, so next November you can say we played in late December, or is it more the feeling of winning a championship can now carry momentum? Walk me through kind of what the advantages are.
Well, it's going to be a little bit of both. I mean, being able to get more practice reps in, by far none. That is about the best thing that came from all of this. Being able to compete at home, being able to draw more fans into the stands because they're like, oh, this is fun. I need to go out there and support. By saying that we do have a championship, send your seniors out with a bang. You know, the social media things that are taking place right now is amazing. More and more video out there. People are like, oh my gosh, let me follow Arizona. I'm walking around the convention. Everyone's like, Rita, great job, great job, great job. To be a woman in the midst of what's going on right now and another woman about to win the national championship, you know, I feel pretty special right now.
It is a special time. I mean, there's no doubt about it. The fact that you can kind of boast that double female champion as well. What does it mean for recruiting for Arizona specifically, especially when you do have a bit of a social media outreach? I've seen the Instagram page. You know, you're doing good work.
Yes. Well, anytime you can put something in front of athletes, you know, last year we didn't do as well, but many people thought we did well because I invested in making sure that someone from social media traveled with us to kind of see if you don't win, what do you write about? So let's go out there and let's hear the stories. Let's put out there what our players are doing and the excitement and how great Tucson is, a great community. And it's one of those things, once you come see it, it's pretty special. I get to talk to a lot of athletes and, you know, other teams. They're like, Rita, you are awesome and great. Well, come visit Tucson and you'll see it, and then you'll even know how much more great it is.
So I want to go deeper on what you just said, because I have worked with coaches that have paid out of their pocket for a broadcaster or for a social media manager. Where did you find that idea? How did you first come about it? Because it's definitely worthwhile investment.
Well, I didn't have to pay it out of my pocket, which is nice. Okay. I did have the support of my athletic department for it. But talk to your athletes. Literally, they were like, well, Rita, we like this, or how come we don't do this, or how come we don't do that? And because I want a player-led program, I listen to what they say, and then I try to make it happen as best I can or get as close, and then I go to the powers to be to say, hey, we need to make this happen, and great things happen as a result.
Okay, so I want to go into hypothetical world now, because we have obviously seen this immense, gross increase in fans at the arenas and watching at home. You know, the semifinal broke a record here with over 21,000. The viewership is surely going to be over 1 million. In your experience, is there one thing that you could put your finger on that said, when this happened, everything changed? Or is it a gradual increase in investment from athletic departments, plus TV deals, plus this, plus that? What can you attribute to it?
You know, I think it's when COVID happened, I think that everyone was at home and was able to look at social media more because we had a lot of free time on our hands. And so we kind of saw how that could take off and what the impact that it had on it, the groups coming together, the challenges from one state to another, one program to another. It made everyone eager. So then once you start putting out there what's going on, unfortunately, be it good, be it bad, but luckily in this situation, all the good, everyone wants to be a part of it. Everyone wants to be a part of a winning program, a winning tradition, or the first. You know, like everyone's trying to break their neck to get here for this game. Tickets are going off the chart for people who are potentially going to sell them from the teams that didn't do well. Why? Because people want to say, I was there when the first woman won the national championship. Everyone wanted to go to Nebraska when they broke the attendance record. I was in attendance for that event. So you want to be a part of the first, and so everyone's trying to figure out what that next best first is.
It gives me goosebumps. It hasn't happened yet. You know, it's going to happen in a few days. We're recording between the national semifinals and the championships, but I was a part of that Mary Wise team. I was the radio broadcaster as a student, so to see how much she put into it, it was a big deal to Coach Wise to try to be that first woman. She made it to the championship, obviously fell to Stanford, but now it can be raised up regardless of who it is. It's one of those things that can be publicized and
Correct.
Promoted.
Correct.
What else do you think can be done to continue this rise? Because it needs to keep being exponential.
Correct.
We can't just plateau at, all right, now we're happy 1 million people are watching and the game's on ABC. What else can be done to continue the growth?
Well, not to be Debbie Downer here, but it was several women that lost their job this year. You know, so it's our responsibility to get them back out there. They still want to coach, put them in a position to say, hey, we can do this. We need the support of young women that want to play for women. That's part of it as well. It's not just the male coach that can get them to A, B, or C. We have to make sure that we continue to stay on television. We have to support our professional leagues that's taking place. A woman won that, the Pro Federation. Think about, there was another woman who did that. So that was exciting. And let's celebrate it. And women need to brag on women more. I don't know that we always do that, or nearly enough, but we need to be better in that area. We need the athletes saying, hey, this woman did this woman did that. And it's not to put down a man by any stretch of the imagination, but we want to be the first and we want to take over our sport and be the leaders of it. So we need more women head coaches. We need to shorten our timeouts because most people that come to the games don't really understand a lot. We need to explain, what the libero is and why that person can't go in the front row. During our match during the NIVC, we had a lot of basketball fans there. I knew it because we went up and we hit a ball and our player hit it into the antenna and the crowd was like, yay, because they thought it went off the block and, everyone else that really knew volleyball was like, no. So, it's like just teaching the sport and teaching the game.
Yeah, how do you feel like it can be? Because I do have people asking me, what does this mean, right? Like the back row and the ball handling errors and this and that. How do you feel? Do you think maybe a quick 5-minute video right before a match starts on the big screen? Like how can you see a future where we teach?
I think the clinic. So, bring those people in, explain to them, talk to them, have a quick video. I don't know if 5 minutes is too long in this day and age, but a short video that you play every match and you explain it and, you bring your crowd in and you let the coaches talk ahead of time. So at the end of our match, they let me talk and kind of thank the fans a little bit, what's going on, put the videos out there and make it contagious, tag people in it. But we're onto something big here. We want to keep it going.
And we are seeing some of the facilities have microphones for the referees. I've seen that be a huge increase. So you could tell the fans what's being challenged.
Correct.
Maybe speeding up the challenge process would be one thing, but that's on a case-to-case. You talked about the pro leagues, and I'm curious, you've been around for so long with recruiting, and you've seen all of the different shades that women's volleyball recruiting has seen. Where do you feel like getting to say to maybe an international recruit or someone that wants to figure out what the future is, that we have pro leagues in America now, 3 of them, 2 of them going on in the spring that you can promote? How do you feel like that's an appetizing drawing?
Well, 100%. Everyone wants to be able to say, I'm going to do something else afterwards. For the longest, we would just say the epitome of your career was playing in college. You can go overseas, but how many people want to make a lifelong career overseas? But now that you can stay here in the States, in your city, or the club that you grew up in, that, you can eventually play on those leagues, those are the success stories. Why is Anna DeBeer so hot right now? Because she said that she wanted to get Louisville here, and this is where she's from, and now her hometown is all behind her. You want those stories, and the more we can tell that story, the better it'll be.
And a top pick to Indy, and certainly to stay local and to see the regional support of teams in Omaha. And we talked about Coach Bird and winning that championship as an interim, replacing a male head coach to win the first PVF title. I want to know if there has been any rumblings of other ways to grow the sport. One thing has always kind of circled around a gray area of gambling. And we saw the bracket challenge get instituted this year, and so many people, droves, tens of thousands entering the ESPN bracket challenge. Do you see anything else in that vein moving forward with maybe the way that gambling has entered our society with football and basketball and baseball? Is it a way to also increase the viewership of volleyball without trying to spoil the morality of it?
I don't know. I don't know that you can have one foot in and one foot out. I don't gamble on anything. I hate to lose money. So I'm not one of those people that really understand that part of it. But I do know you would draw a clientele as a result. But the reality is there's a pressure that goes along with that as well. And so do I want that to be on these young athletes whose brain really isn't quite ready for all that really means? I'm not a part of that one.
Totally makes sense. Last thing I want to talk to you about is maybe getting a bit of an insight into your recruiting learning, what you've been able to take from recruiting as maybe a grad assistant into the assistant, into a head coach now, and delegating recruiting. What are some tips that you could give to either the new head coaches or new assistants or longtime assistants out there that may have hit a wall and felt like, I'm getting a little sour on recruiting? What are things that you've learned?
Well, one is know who you are as an individual. The more you know who you are, you know what you're willing to accept and what you're willing to tolerate. And, you know, every player is not the best player for you, and you're not the best coach for every player, and understand that. I like to believe, I had a kid that I was talking to today, and she just told me she was going somewhere else. I wish her the best of luck. I don't hold any ill will towards her, but I just want to know where you're going so I can understand in my head. I'm not going to ask you why you ultimately did that, but to kind of understand, and then I'll follow that kid just to see if it was someone that could have made us better versus someone that was their best decision, because you never know what happens at the end of the day.
It's a really good one. And, you know, in terms of maybe having like a wand that you can wave and change something, and let's dive in. What about maybe club tournaments or camps? Are they a well-oiled machine for recruiting to come in, and maybe the NIT in Kansas City or the summer showcases that we see with USA or AAU? Is everything as good as it can get from a coaching recruiting standpoint, or is there something that can be changed there?
I honestly think club coaches have a little too much power and deciding on whether an athlete will talk to you at some point or another. So, you know, you'll talk to a club and they'll say, oh no, she's already narrowed down her list. And then, you know, it comes to the point where it's legal for you to talk to the athlete, and the athlete is like, oh, I never heard anything about you. And it's like, okay, you know, and every club wants their kid to go to a Texas, a Penn State. I get that, but that's not for everyone. As you can see through the portal, that those places aren't made for everyone. There's a certain breed that should be there, that could be there, but there's a plethora of other great programs out there that are scratching the surface and have had rich history in the past and on the brink of doing something else great. And I just want athletes to truly hear the story behind it. And at the end of the day, every parent wants their kid to play for a coach that's going to take care of them. And so I would say to the clubs, get to know the coaches a little bit more to understand whether that is a program that would take care of the kid. And if at the end of the day the kid decides elsewhere, that's fine, but just don't shut the door on everyone just because they're not in the Final Four.
Well, perfect insight. Thank you so much, Coach.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Charita Stubbs, Daniel Gillman here, D1 Ticker with Coaches.wire, reporting from Louisville.